it's pretty sad, right? Like I would open the refrigerator and I'd say, there's nothing to eat. I would be very ticked off quickly. And she would say, because you ate everything. You eat everything. You have to go back to the grocery store because this is ridiculous. We don't have anything to eat.
Well, welcome everybody to Ferrigno Freedom channel. I'm Dante Ferrigno, and we are going to be having a carnivore conversation today with Daniel Ciccarello. Is that how you pronounce it?
Maybe. Ciccarello.
Ciccarello. I see the I on the before the O, and I thought there was no. Anyway, I know a lot of us Italian names get mixed up around here. I assume that's Italian anyway. It sure sounds like it.
Absolutely. We're
cousins. Ferrigno is not the actual pronunciation of my name either. It's actually pronounced Ferrigno. So, it could be anything. A lot of times they change it when they get here. But we're going to be talking to Daniel today. And Daniel has had a short run with Carnivore so far, but it has been an amazing one. So I would like to be able to share that with you guys. So Daniel, welcome to the show.
I appreciate that, Dante. Number one, first off, thank you so much for allowing me to share my story. But even besides that, thank you for your testimony. Again, having the courage to get in front of a camera and showcasing your transformation. And it was a ripple effect. So from Carrie from Homestead and whatnot, Dave, Mac, all the people that have seen you, they're blown away. So was I. You're a catalyst to my family, my brother Joe, who is severely obese. Now, he's a normal person, and that all started from you taking that decision to that next level. So I appreciate you.
So he was the first one to get started this way, and you kind of followed his suit? Pretty
much, yeah, because this method of lifestyle, beforehand, we were, into the whole ketosis and understanding that, hey, you know what, you don't need to use glucose, sugar for fuel. It's not the only thing. It's not that standard American diet where, hey, what are you doing? You can't just cut out sugar. You need sugar. So when we started doing the keto, because I remember back in when did I buy the house? 2017. So 2016, I started messing around with keto, and I saw that I was just shedding a whole bunch of fat. And I'm like, wow, this is great. But I just felt now, hindsight, that I was masking the symptom. And I feel that's the issue nowadays, that we all mask the symptom, whether it's a gastric bypass, whether it's Ozempic or Wegovy. Yes, we get to that point of not feeling hungry for those individuals that go that route. Again, I'm not demonizing them or anything. I'm just looking at from my vantage point, my point of view, that we don't focus on the actual issue, which is inflammation, and which is caused by sugar. But going on this journey with carnivore, and I'm just like you, I went straight up lion diet. I don't know if it's an Italian thing, but it's like all or nothing. Go to Nona's house.
I think that's an Italian thing.
Yeah, exactly. You go to grandma's house, and it's always food after food. It's feast or famish. It's just one way or another. I've had weight issues, but not crazy, more disproportion than anything else growing up. Around 12, 13 years old, I started like doing calisthenics and seeing, wow, this is great. Again, I was seeing my brother Joe. I have 4 brothers. And he was always into bodybuilding, this and that. Then I went to the football team, and it was the same thing. And I noticed I could eat whatever I want, and I'm still going to be ripped. I played quarterback for that high school here in Queens, New York. And I was like, all right, invincible. I could do whatever I want. Went to college. Weight started creeping up. At that point, I was in my head, I'm like, I got to get big. I got to get beyond 200 pounds. I have to. This is scrawny, 180, 190. I can't do this. Everybody makes fun of me. I broke through bodybuilding, lifting, and all that good stuff. Then there was a problem, Dante. I could never go back down below 200 pounds. What I've noticed was
But you didn't
that
have over 200 pounds in muscle. You had a mixture of fat and muscle, and you just couldn't get it to where it was where you wanted it to overall be. I get you.
nailed it. And that was the thing. People would see me and say, wow, you're big, you're solid. So it kind of messes with your mind, right? You look in the mirror, you don't like what you're seeing,
Right.
but you're getting these compliments and you're like, okay, maybe it's not what I'm seeing. Maybe I do look good. But then when I see pictures, I'm like, I was looking at these pictures and it was like seeing the movie The Ring, like after the 7 days, all disproportionate and whatnot. I'm like, I don't like what I'm seeing here. But it was a constant endeavor of going to the gym. Then I started doing CrossFit and I got ripped. I got shredded. I started doing keto. But even with the going into ketosis, I felt very drained, if that makes any sense. But I was drained, but I felt good. But I needed that extra fuel source of vegetables, meats, and it wasn't the clean meats. I had to cut out the fat, all that stuff. Fast forward, I had my first child, very energetic. Second child, everything was great, moved into a new house, and the trials of life started just kind of caving in. And I reverted to really bad eating habits, very bad. And I knew I had that in me because growing up, again, there is no control. There was none. Sleeves of Oreo cookies, sleeves, not knowing when to stop. My wife, it's pretty sad, right? Like I would open the refrigerator and I'd say, there's nothing to eat. I would be very ticked off quickly. And she would say, because you ate everything. You eat everything. You have to go back to the grocery store because this is ridiculous. We don't have anything to eat. So I would go buy groceries, bring it in. As we're eating, I finished my plate like the Tasmanian devil right away. And now I'm looking at my wife's plate, my kid's plate. Crazy. This is sick. This is the beyond epitome of addiction. And when they didn't, I would place my fork and I would start eating until everything was done. And this went on for quite a while. Brain fog. Oh my goodness, Dante, like I could not think straight. And I would try to fight it. And I got to be honest, every morning when I would get up, everybody would be sleeping. And by the way, I would always wake up at 3 a.m, ever since I'm 6. I would look in the mirror, shirt off, and I'm like, today's the day. Today is the day that I'm going to make this change. No more, no holds bar, that's it. As the day progressed, I would feel, not only hear, feel this voice saying, today isn't the day, and it never will be. You're mine, and this is how it's going to be. You're going to eat, you're going to leave work, you're going to indulge, because I have the control. This weird, I guess that's the addiction, obviously, but I got to be honest, not to get too spiritual and whatnot, but I'm a firm believer of Jesus Christ. And I know that there are many spirits out there. And if you don't have that discipline, that faith in Christ, you open yourself up to a lot of things. And I remember praying one day, right, about probably October, September of last year. And I said, this is tough. This is tough. I know in your word it says, ask and you shall receive. I would like to finally feel good. I want to be there for my family. Use anything. And again, in the word it says, God uses the foolishness of this world to confine the wise, right? Around October, I started noticing certain things digestively. Not to get too graphic, but I started getting blood in my stool. Very bad. So I went to a gastroenterologist. I waited for hours. They said, come in, we'll take you in. I'm like, all right, cool. He got me. Waiting there 2-3 hours. finally got into his office. No examination, no nothing. So he said, are you going to check what's going on? He said, no, we have to do an endo and a colonoscopy. I said, wait, hold on a second. Are you going to ask me what I eat? Maybe there's something that I'm eating that might be a causation to this. No, it has nothing to do with your diet. No, we have to see what's going on in there and down your throat. And this was an appointment for sometime in November, right? I don't want to mess up the timelines here. It was like 3 weeks after that appointment. I left there, right? I left knowing that, shoot, there might be something up. It's a rainy day. They wanted me to go to a lab to give blood, stool sample, all that stuff. So I'm driving my car, rain pouring down. It's like a movie scene. And I'm like, wow, man, I really got to change. I got to do something. I pulled into the parking lot, come out, I knock on the door. The facility's closed to draw blood. I'm like, all right. I'm walking. This is how crazy this is. I'm walking towards my car, and I think for a second, there's a pizzeria across the street. Let me go get something to eat. As if it completely eclipsed and overshadowed everything that I just went through just now. So I went. Let me get a slice, please. 2. Make it 2. And I'll get a grape soda because, we all need fruit in our life. Do you want me to bag it? No, just the way it is. I go outside, little canopy there, and I'm eating it. Ate the whole thing. I felt like John Travolta, right? Walking down, the city and whatnot. But I felt like John Candy. And as soon as I was done with those 2 slices.
You felt like John Travolta and you felt like you looked like John Candy? Is that what you meant?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, let's just make sure I was clear.
Sorry about that. Yeah, exactly. As soon as I was done, I go back into the pizzeria. I order a spinach roll. Fiber. That was the thought process. You need fiber.
Getting some health food now. I got you.
So now I devour all that, and I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty messed up. When are you going to learn? So at that point, I'm satiated at that point, and I'm like, then common sense comes in, sort of, or it's that depression state where you start thinking, what did I do? You're not learning. Okay. So I walk back to the car, and now my belly's full, and I say, all right, you know what? I don't know what it's going to take, but I got to try this lion diet. So the following day.
And by this point, all your experience has been watching your brother only?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's
100%.
doing the lion diet specifically?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
100%. So the following day, I said, all right, you know what? Let's do it. I started with, again, I'm not the one to force myself to eat. I was never a breakfast guy. Never. Normally the common word would be like, well, you're eating more in the afternoon because you don't have breakfast. I'm like, all right, so I would eat breakfast, and then towards the afternoon, I would still have that same hunger. Now I'm tripling the calories. So I waited the whole entire day. I didn't eat anything. When I got home, I made a steak. I felt good. Then the munchies started around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock when everybody would go to sleep, because that was my main thing. Always. When everybody would go to sleep, I would feel so ashamed to eat in front of them.
Yeah.
I would wait for that. Then I would hit the little treasure chest. Doritos, Cheetos, all the stuff. Again, it's like, it was obviously fool's gold, right? So chocolate, whatever it is. But at that point I said, no, I got to push through this. Second day, this was in November. Went to work, everything was good. And then all of a sudden, I got home, I did the same thing. You know what I figured? It was an epiphany I had this week, right? Because people were talking about car payments, how expensive it is. And one guy said, yeah, I pay $600 a month on car payments. Oh, I can't wait to get rid of this one. The other one, yeah, I pay about $800 a month. Wow, that's for a car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then when I was like, hey, look, I pay probably maybe $400 a month for like my ribeyes and my New York strip. Whoa, that's way too much money. Yeah, but I'm like Dr. Robert Kiltz. He spoke about in his TED Talk how he compared us as Ferraris, but we utilize our bodies like Yugos of all the nonsense that we put into our bodies. So that I remember. So now I go to Costco and I'm just buying the whole roast. I invested in those little vacuum sealers and whatnot. So my freezer, not as big as yours. Man, I saw that video. That is awesome. That's a real treasure chest. I started throwing everything in the freezer so I would be prepared. So now I've noticed little intricacies of change, right? Kind of like, I don't know if you've ever read Atomic Habits, an amazing book. Out of this
It's
world.
actually on my list, though.
Oof, you'd love it. You'd love it. By James Clear. It's just little accumulations. And now I started to forward think. This is what I'm going to do tomorrow. 1 week into this, I started, as soon as I put my head down, I fell asleep. Straight. That has never happened to me, ever. I would toss and turn back and forth, out like a light. My wife is like, you didn't snore. I'm like, wow, it's fascinating because us Italians, I mean, we have that kind of nose action going on. And even when we normally breathe during the day, we normally snore. That's me. But nothing, out the door.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it was
Right?
the same. As a matter of fact, just hearing you say it again about snoring and being able to get to sleep, that's the first time I've thought of that in a while. You kind of refreshed my memory. I was like, yeah, I remember that. That ability to go to sleep, I just longed for it. And then when it happened, I said, wow, my head hit the pillow and I was out. That has just never happened. And that's the way it happens all the time now.
And now I don't know if you could attest to this, but I'm dreaming. It's the weirdest thing. My dreams are vivid. I can remember my dreams. And I'm like, wow, I always felt like dreams had a purpose, no matter what it is. You're conking out, and then your subconscious comes to life, right? And I don't know if there's a connection or whatnot. I know, with Joseph, in the Old Testament and whatnot, that he could interpret dreams. Daniel as well, that there was something there.
Yeah.
But I just feel nowadays there's a complete block, and sugar and glyphosate, all these things that they all pay a certain price of admission to kind of get in between us in that spiritual realm that God controls, of course. So one weekend, I'm doing great. The second weekend, I step on the scale and I lost a good 7 pounds. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. I started the journey at 245. Following week, same thing. I'm dropping weight like crazy. And that was my full focus, is losing the weight. But there was other things going on as well. My mental clarity was coming back. I was able to rebuttal quick, but in a concise, educated manner, if it makes sense. Because I remember before this, when I would get into a certain like an altercation or a certain verbal confrontation, after the fact, 7 hours later, I would say, I should have said this. This was perfect. I don't know if you remember that episode from Seinfeld with George.
I just thought of that when you said that. I swear, that is so funny.
I'm turning the car over. I'm hopping onto the flight going back to Cleveland. And so I'm like, man, but now it's instant. It's the wildest thing how you could tap into those percentages of mental clarity, of memory, and just constructing the right sentences, and not to be invasive, not to be disrespectful. Like it's coming out so diplomatically. I'm like, oh, I didn't know I had this in me. Anyway, I started seeing cures within me. And it wasn't just healing, it was cures. I was going to the bathroom normal. And by normal, again, bowel movements were maybe once a day or once every other day. Gas, I don't know what that is anymore. And I was like a walking locomotive before this. I was just gas, but I would just walk and talk. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know if I had a form of Crohn's, IBS. I'm sure I had that because it wasn't normal to always feel bloated, and it's disgusting. That's all I have to say. It's not normal to function.
I know exactly what you mean when you say that, because my gut issues were similar in that I never got a diagnosis of anything. I mean, I had to self-diagnose that it was leaky gut for me ultimately, but it could have been Crohn's starting to develop, because that's one of your chronic illnesses. That's one of your not anti-inflammatory, autoimmune. It's one of your autoimmune disorders. And most of these autoimmune disorders didn't exist, or at least didn't exist in the numbers that they do now. 100 years ago, they weren't out there. So now they're happening all the time, and it's like, okay, so what have we done different in the past 100 years?
That's 100% right on point. That's why I placed a post. I'm a co-host at thejetsafterburners.com.
I was going to ask if you were a Jets fan. I wasn't sure, but it kind of looked like you might be.
I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, Carnivore hasn't cured me of everything just as yet. Hopefully soon. I can't do this anymore. It's just killing me. No, I love these guys. But I sent out a post there, and it stated, kind of my transformation and whatnot. And I'm getting a lot of mixed reviews, and I always find that very funny. So as I'm going through this transition, keep in mind, when I was severely obese, no one ever told me, Dan, you got to do something about what you're doing. I would be at Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, or just a family function. I would grab seconds and thirds. No one would say anything. Now, do you want any salad? Do you want any dessert? No, I'm good. Are you okay? No, I'm good. I'm just eating a specific way. Like, I'm not pressing it onto people. Like, hey, I do carnivore. No. This is my journey. And I'm not one to say or to start a conversation. Hey, that's bad for you. That's no. I know the vegan lifestyle is like that. Like, I'm not one of those on the boardwalk here at the beach and saying, hey, you should not eat this. Everyone has their own decisions. But now it's, hey, how dare you reject our homemade food? I'm not rejecting it, but I'm going through a process here. Some understand it, some don't. And that's the difficult part. But it is what it is. So now I'm losing a bunch of weight. I lost about 15 to 16 pounds the day of my colonoscopy. And what I'm about to say is, again, everyone has to make their own decisions. I'm not advocating for anyone not to go for a colonoscopy or to cancel an endoscopy. This was my choice. The morning of, I said to my wife, listen, I'm feeling better. I don't want to, and I did the whole thing. I did the, the flush out and whatnot. That kind of like spiked my sugar level a little bit and all that stuff, but I still felt like I was in control. And just the mere fact that I had a fast, I'm like, wow, for a procedure, I'm able to fast. But on my own free will, I got to have a snack. Hold on a second. This is changing here. So I called up the hospital. I said, look, I lament. I do apologize, but I'm not going to go forward with it. They said, no worries, just call the office and just let them know. Okay, no problem. I called the office, and to my dismay, sometimes God answers your prayers in a form of how other people respond. I said, listen, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm going to move forward with this. The response on the back was, you can't cancel. They're waiting for you. You know, there's a lot of people depending on you right now. I said, whoa, hold on a second. There's a lot of personal checking accounts that are waiting for me there. And don't infringe, please. I said, this is my decision. And you have no right telling me what to do and how many people are depending on me, this and that. They'll live. At that point, I felt like I took the bull by the horns. I'm like, all right, this was a serious decision here. Yeah. Serious. Continued on. Christmas came. Here with the Italian culture, my wife is Polish as well. We do like the 7 fish ensemble and whatnot. And I just had salmon. And there was a lot of carbs, a lot of drinks and whatnot. None of that, just water. I was just very disciplined, all or nothing. Lost another 5. So January came about. I'm 20 pounds down. I'm at 220. Wow, this is great. My clothes starting filling up. I know the shirt says Brooklyn, but whenever I used to wear it, it would say Connecticut. Like that's how big I was. It was really like the letters would be all distorted. And I felt so in control. February came about, and that's where, my wife isn't one to give compliments. She's very, this is how life is, she's like, you're looking great. I'm like, wow, man, that's what I needed. I needed to hear that. Kind of like that Adrian to the Rocky moment out in Russia. Like you could do this.
Yep.
And I took those initiatives. I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's keep doing it. We would go out, out to eat with friends at work and whatnot. And I'm just having seltzer and steak. And there's appetizers, everything, but it's not a fight back anymore. It's, I don't want that. Are you sure? It's really good. No, I've had enough of that for the past 20 plus years. And just to utilize those 2 letters, it's so empowering to say no. It's crazy. You would think that, you would need more letters to the alphabet to make your presence known. But when you say no to something and you commit to it, it showcases the power of the mind, and that willpower to say enough is enough. The whole beauty of this is now, yesterday, went on the scale, and it's the first time, I would have to say probably, it's got to be at least 24 years that I broke the 200 barrier. So I'm at 199. I'm blown away because I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, we're getting there. Oh, it's still not over. Because with any addiction, the temptations are always going to be there, right? You hear the eat in moderation. A little bit of this, a little bit of that is not going to hurt you. But when you're in that boat that you just stepped out of addiction, anything can trip you up. Like I remember Carrie saying, you don't ask, a cocaine addict, hey, look, you've been great all week. I think you deserve a bump on Friday night, or an alcoholic, a shot right. on a Saturday. You don't give yourself that room for error.
Yeah.
I look at it as of right now, more of a fight or flight phase that I'm at. It's very weird. But weird because I don't know much. But like, for instance, there was a wild animal in the backyard and whatnot. And before I would call pest control. Now I'm outside. I'm looking for this thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to defend my family. I'm ready. And I just feel like that has been lost. Hunters and gatherers, right? Like, these people didn't depend on potato chips. They didn't depend on cookies or anything that was processed. During the summer, spring, or whatnot, it was grapes, blueberries. It was not perverted how it is now. To me, it was natural. Now, fruits and vegetables, they have glyphosate on it, and they're all genetically modified. Think about it. When's the last time anyone has ate a watermelon with black seeds? I remember growing up, and it was a constant spitfire. Right? Now, no, you have these little white, yellow seeds. If you find it, seedless grapes, these things are so sugary that, of course, it's going to blow your insulin right through the roof.
Yeah.
Vegetables. Again, I was always big into spinach, Popeye, right? This is good for you. And I'm sure it was. Not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, all the pesticides that they place on there, if we place ourselves in the shoes of these farmers, I think we would probably do the same. We have to feed our families, and now we can't be going there every week putting pesticides. We need something that latches on there, and the insects don't eat them and whatnot. All right, what's the best thing? Glyphosate. Throw it on there. You can't get rid of that. The floods come, the rains and whatnot, it can't wipe off. And here I am going to Stop and Shop, getting a head of lettuce, putting it under a sink, thinking that I'm doing it. I'm tickling it. That's all I'm doing. I'm not taking anything out of it.
Yeah.
And then I ingest it. And then as time goes on, gut issues happen over and over. And that's something interesting as well that I came across. The weight. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could drop down. I was at 210, man. It took me like 2 weeks to get to 205. This is a process. Your body is going through such a change, and it's trying to fix every ailment possible. And the more steak, the more fat that you eat, ruminant meat, the more it gives time to your body to, all right, we're going to process this. And as soon as we're done breaking this down, we got to get to work. Knee issues. I'm going to try to repair that. Heart issues. We're going to repair that. It's the analogy of the plumber, right? To your house. If a pipe breaks, the guy comes over, he gives you an estimate. It's only going to take 30 minutes. But if he's doing that and another pipe breaks, it's going to be double the time, double the price. Now, as he's doing that, another pipe breaks. Same thing with us. If we don't fast, we're not allowing the time that your body needs to fix these issues at hand that have came over time. And that's where my epiphany occurred. I need to continue eating this way for a long time because I have to undo all the damage that I've done that took a long time. Maybe since I was 7 or 8, whatever the case is.
And how old are you now?
I am 43.
Okay.
43. And I feel so energetic. I feel 20. Not the teens yet. Maybe if you give me another year, I might feel like I'm 18 or whatnot. But right now, I can keep up with our kids. When my wife needs something to be, I'm there. Or taking the dog out, whatever the case is, I'm present in the moment. I used to be present, but absent-minded. And it was such a disservice to my family. And that's what hurt the most, thinking that I was jailed because of these bad eating habits and these spikes of insulin and these crashes. And I think it's probably 75% of the US that suffer from this. And it's consistent. And it's a battle. Yesterday on my Instagram page, one guy messaged me. He's like, I'm going through the same thing, but it seems difficult. I'm like, what you've been going through, that was some sort of a willpower too, of kind of eating all this nonsense. You have the same willpower to change. Right? There's a quote that says, don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. We have that change. And kind of surrounding yourself with good people like you. Again, interviewing you, even on the channel, helped me. Robert Kiltz, Dr. Baker, all these guys, Kerry, Dave Mack, and just watching videos of testimonies on your show, it kind of places such a great common denominator. This is what I want to fill my mind with. When I go to work, right. I don't listen to music. I listen to a sermon. When I'm working out, I'm listening to motivational speakers like Les Miles, Tony Robbins, and the list goes on. And I'm utilizing my time better. Now, I'm reading more books. Like this one here is crazy. It's called Those Who Live Without Discipline Die Without Honor. It's a short book, and the word discipline is utilized in that book probably more than 500 times or even 700. There's so much more for us to learn in life and to expand our minds with proper nutrition.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be, to me, from what you've been saying, is that it is exactly about self-mastery. It's about self-control. And food is one of the easiest places to not have self-control, especially if you're in a family that it's eat, drink, and be merry. And most right. Italian families are going to be like that. So that's going to really be an exacerbating part of it. But then again, our food today, everything we do for entertainment revolves right. around food. Everything we do for social activities revolves around food or drinking. And you know, we've made that our emotional outlet for everything. And if you've got anything difficult in your life and you haven't learned self-control, then it dominates you. It actually controls you. And you don't want to accept that. I mean, you might have been 3 months ago a whole lot less disciplined than you are now, but having to make that switch and then seeing such quick results. I mean, in 3 months, you've gotten down to a weight that you haven't been at in years, and you haven't seen any issues with the gut issue since then?
Nothing. Go to the bathroom fine. No.
That's amazing. And you're right at the beginning of your journey. And I think that's one of the things that's so interesting about your story is it takes me back to before I was even done making my very first video, the 125 days on lion diet, because you're not even at 125 days yet, but you're already seeing those benefits. And I was seeing them then as well. So it's always great to have somebody that's only been doing it for a short while to be able to come and talk about how quickly things change, but also how much this is not just about eating. This is about thinking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the wild thing, is that I'm not even thinking about what I'm going to eat. So I'm pretty sure everyone can attest to this who has just a regular 8-hour job and whatnot, especially in the morning. You get in there at 7, you do whatever you need to do. You're eating breakfast with your coworker. Now it's 8 a.m. You finished your breakfast, and the topic of conversation is, what are we eating for lunch? What are we eating for lunch? Wow, it seems as if it's a spell that we all have over us here. That it's constant food over and over and over. Now it's Friday. 1 o'clock, you're going out for lunch, eating pizza, whatever the case is. Hey, you guys want to go out after work? We're going to this pub. We're going to have some wings. If you want, we can have some pizza, more pizza, ribs, some beer, a good social event. We surpass what the daily amount of calories, or what the daily amount was, it 3,000 or 4,000 calories. That got surpassed in like 2 meals nowadays.
Yeah.
We don't give time to break down food and getting the nutrients that we need. And plus, the foods that we eat, they're not nutrient dense.
Yeah,
Steak.
that's the real problem. To me, it's not the calories themselves, even though they do have a lot more calories than I even eat on a carnivore diet.
Right.
It's the all the junk you mentioned that was in it before, all the stuff that's synthetic, all the things that have been genetically modified. That's what's hurting our bodies so much, because we didn't have
100%.
all that stuff. And
Yeah.
now our bodies can handle a lot of damage, but I think over the years we're at the point now where we're dealing with the genetic results of eating the wrong food for so long.
You're right. And I think it's causing such a stress within our bodies, within our minds, on how to troubleshoot certain issues.
Yeah.
And also the aging process, what I'm learning.
Oh yeah.
Dante, you look, I gotta be honest, 42, 43, like my age. You look that vibrant, that young. And I think it's called, what is it? Autophagy, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Tapping into that, where we have so many dead cells within our system that feed off of sugar. We continuously maintain them on life support. But once we sever that, they start to die off, and your metabolism skyrockets. Not only that, your immune system. Man, knock on wood, even though that's not wood, I haven't gotten sick yet. I have not gotten sick. I felt like I was about to get like a cold or whatnot, but like the next day, wow, this is great. Like I
Yeah.
feel like my body is the defense mechanism. It's on standby. It's like as soon as something foreign comes in, it's going to attack it. Now I do have a fear, and that fear, which I'm more than sure sooner or later I have to conquer, is, let's say one day I mess up and I'll have, let's say, maybe a little piece of toast, in which it's not in my head. I don't even want to throw it out there. Like I remember watching an episode where one of the interviewees that was on Carrie, he said, "Yeah, I gained the 20 pounds back, but then I hopped back on and I burned it all." Like mentally, where I'm at right now, I don't know if I can take that. Like I don't know if I can. What is it? Come off the wagon and being addicted to this substance and racking up the 20 pounds again. Like I can't even. That's such a fear, and I think it's a good fear, in my opinion. I don't want to go there. I don't want to fall into the snares of this system, and it's consistent. Like, and it's a nightmare to me. Going to bed, having these dreams where I'm looking at myself. I'm like, oh my goodness! Like I sent you a picture, and that was Christmas. That's
Yeah.
huge,
Oh, that the picture where
enormous.
the thinner picture was Christmas, so that was only a month or so later.
No. The thinner one was about probably 3 weeks ago. The
Oh,
big
okay.
picture was the one around Christmas.
Okay.
I
So
sent you. I sent you.
you'd already been losing some weight by then, because you'd started a month earlier.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was a big boy. But I sent you another one yesterday. Two of them actually. What I look like now, and I've been hitting the gym, and the gym is here in my basement, and I have had this drive, like kind of like what you do in the morning, where you wake up and you go in for your walks.
Yeah.
It's like your body wants to be fit. It wants to be in that state of mental focus of, if anything happens, I got to be physically ready, because the body's going to respond to the mind. And if it can't keep up, you're going to pull something. And I've pulled a lot of things, and that's just getting up from bed. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the heck happened here? Like my back went out. I didn't do anything. Now I get up as soon as my eyes wake up. It's even before the alarm clock, which is astonishing. I get up like at 5 or 6 o'clock, right before, and I'm ready to tackle the day. And that's the beauty of this whole thing. It's like it's revamping everything. And I'm ecstatic, Dante. I'm really happy where I'm at, but I'm just scratching the surface because it's still I don't want to wave the flag of saying, "Hey, I conquered it." This is an ongoing daily battle. It's a battle every single day.
Well, for a lot of us, I think it really does come down to addiction and habits. And I think probably more than a lot of us, if everybody is being honest, that they realize they've either already got good habits because they were trained early or they learned early about the importance of good habits and they started employing those, or they're like me and procrastination was something that was higher up on my habit list. And, looking for the hedonistic route, looking for the pleasure route rather than the challenge route. And I would talk about it like when I'm raising my kids, I would tell them, don't play the easy level of the game, play the hard level. It's no fun if you can beat it on easy. That's nothing. Right. You got to play it where it's hard so you have a challenge. Mm-hmm. And then I'm not even living that example. No wonder it was not sinking in their heads. But once you start on this path, I think the first thing is you get the why. Something's wrong. I'm getting upper in an age, and I just found out I've got some kind of health issue. They don't know what it is. It's scary because of the way it looks, like in your case, what you were seeing. And then you say, okay, I got to do something different. It gets that, all that stuff that was holding you back before. Now that stuff's kind of pushed out of the way so that you can start taking off all the stuff that's holding you back. I think of a car engine, or even the government's a good example when I use this. All the stuff that's been attached to it, everything that they've put on it over the years that's making it where it doesn't work properly. Oh, well, this is supposed to make it more efficient in this area, and this is supposed to make it cleaner in this area. Meanwhile, the car can't even run. The government can't do anything until they get in there and start taking off all the stuff that's causing the problem. And that's what we start doing when we start cutting out all that food in our life that was not helping us. And then we start to see, wow, this works with food. Maybe it works with other things. Maybe it works, if I start cutting out other bad stuff in my life. And that was another part of your journey that you mentioned, was how it affected you spiritually. And I'd like you to go a little bit more into that. How has it helped your spiritual life?
So growing up, very Christian-based, very. A lot of legalism, right? Which, again, good, bad, I didn't see the people. Bad.
That's us. Yeah. That's what we bring to the table. I don't think that's what the word brings to the table.
Exactly, and it's true. Growing up, I've had some spiritual encounters with God, and as life goes on, there are things that occur where you feel that there is a spiritual warfare going on. If we're going to talk about Christ, we also have to talk about the guy that lives in the basement as well. He's a guy that he knows how this world works very well, and he'll use your strong weak points in order to attack you. Over the years, there has been a lot of things that occurred in my life that sometimes would push me away. But I would always go back to the Word and not understanding well, and back and forth, leading a double life, right? Good guy, bad guy. There's a book out there called, I believe, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I don't know if you've ever read it. It is an amazing book.
Heard of it.
Oof. It is. It's a book that my wife is a big book connoisseur, and God bless her, she has put me onto great books, The Alchemist and whatnot. But this was, to make a quick synopsis, it was about a young boy whose uncle passed away, and he was poor. Uncle was rich. He gave him everything. And as time went on, he began to splurge, and he started changing his character. But he was such a good-looking guy that there was a painter and said, "Let me paint you." So he painted him, placed it onto the a fireplace. As years went on, he would not get old. He would stay young, but very nefarious. He would be really mean to people. But he would see the picture kind of be distorted. He got freaked out, wrapped it up, put it in the attic. As many years went by, all of his friends passed away, and he was still young, but nobody wanted to be near him. One day he heard certain things in the attic, and when he went all the way, he unveiled it, and that was his true self. It was a demon. It was somewhere where he had to contend with and make a decision. Continue being this nasty person, showcasing a beautiful facade. Make the switch. He came down, I believe, as an old man. So he made that decision. That's how I felt. I felt like I was leading two lives. Spiritually and carnally. When I went on this journey, I felt like I was right at the fork of the road. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go the broad path where everyone's going? Keep eating the way you are. You're content, are you? You're happy. This is normal. This is good. Coming back from work, indulging. Everybody goes to bed, putting on Seinfeld, and just scarfing everything down. Or are you going to make a left, go on the narrow path? The path that's going to be difficult, but it's worth the journey to get into the kingdom of heaven. What is your decision, Dan? And that's the point where I felt that God took full control of that inner voice that I had at the beginning of the story, where you're not going to win today, and you never will. I felt that I couldn't do this on my own. Jesus says, the Apostle Paul says, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And that's what it was. The word of God. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Over and over and over. Utilizing the word. Understanding it. And that brought me closer to God. And again, this is a journey right now. Just like the diet is, it's the spiritual aspect as well. It's constant. Every morning I get up, everybody's asleep, open the word. Right now I'm in Isaiah. Continue understanding it. And blocking all the negatives. All this, these are fairy tale stories. Block it out. It's you and God. At the end of the day, it's you and him. You're not alone in this. I'm walking through this journey of carnivore. Again, carnivore. Who would have thought this? Who would have thought that this way of eating was the way of life right now, to get away from all these toxins? But again, God uses the foolish things of this world, things that we overlook, to confine the wise. People that are doctors and this, again, I went to my own doctor and he said, what are you doing? I'm doing carnivore. Huh.
Didn't go over well, huh?
It didn't go over well. But I know where the source of intellect and wisdom is from, and that's from God. So if God wants me to do this, I'm going to do it. This is my way of controlling things.
What does that mean, you think? It's not sustainable. It sounds like people are just saying nobody has that much self-control. Is that what it is that they mean when they say it's not sustainable? Is it too expensive? Is it too hard to go against the grain? I'm not sure what they exactly mean, but when doctor says it's not sustainable, the pills make it sustainable? Is that what I need? I need to be on pills for the rest of my life to sustain? That's not sustainable for me, that's for sure.
Right. I think it's, their curriculum, right? What they've been reading on peer review studies and whatever the case is. And I always felt that there was a filtration system in those reviews, right? Where here comes the truth down the channel. We have to put a stop there because it's not helping the sales department.
Yeah.
So now that bounces off. Now the doctor here he has to be up to par of what is being trickled down. And if he says anything against it, things happen. Dr. Baker, he had his license, I believe, revoked at one point, and he fought his way back, and he got it back because he was fighting the system. Again, this Hippocratic oath that they have to state that it's patient first. I'm going to do whatever I can to help this person. But yes, you're right. It's not sustainable. What is then? What's this? No, a balanced diet. But doc, I can't touch sugar. No, a little bit. I'm not telling you to overdo it. I don't have that control.
Yeah.
Well, you have to work at it. So let me get this straight. If I'm addicted to a drug that's against the law.
Got to go cold turkey on that.
Cold turkey. But something that is so overpowering, like white sugar or whatever the case is, what's going on? I believe he wanted to put me on Xanax at one point because he said the off-label part of the Xanax would help with my glucose levels. I think it was Xanax or the other one. I forgot which one it was. And he's like, look, it's nothing mentally. It's just, it'll help me. I'm like, man, where's the dietary advice? Where is that? Where is the, look, you know what? Let's try this out. That's why when like talking to Dr. Kiltz, he's a fertility doctor, and he was seeing how so many women were getting pregnant utilizing the paleo diet. Those are the physicians that we need more of. Utilizing nutrition, science, putting together, vetting them, vetting information, as opposed to this is what it says, this is what the government says, and this is what we have to push out. There has to be an enlightenment in the medical field as well, where patients have the option, not just if you do this, you're good. If you don't do this, sorry, you can't. Insurance doesn't cover this.
Yeah.
You know, that's just my thinking where there's so much more to it. There's so much more, especially when you go the nutritional route. I feel amazing. Cholesterol, that's another one that is just, it blows my mind. Understanding what LDLs do to your body. It's a healing mechanism. But yet we're given statins where it inhibits the LDL production, but you can die from a hemorrhage. So, and again, all these issues with veins and arteries, that's from sugar. Sugar, you can't break down sugar. Yeah. So you have these crystals going through your veins, your arteries, and it's scraping the lumen of the veins. Over a period of time, it's going to break. Aneurysms happen. Things happen. But cholesterol is there to fill those gaps so your blood can go smooth in there. But no, cholesterol has been vilified. It's so demonized.
And what's even worse is the statins that they prescribe is they eliminate the LDL that is the better. Like there's two different types. There's the fluffy, large, less dense molecules, and then there's the smaller, dense molecules. The smaller, dense molecules are the ones that actually do damage when they drag along the bottom of the riverbed as they're going down the veins and the arteries like you're talking about. The statins actually reduce the number of the large fluffy ones that just float on the surface and go down without hurting anything and stick to the walls where they need to and heal things. So it's amazing. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, just so people can be looking forward to this, and you may look forward to this, I've been talking to Dr. Ovadia, the heart surgeon, and he's going to cover my blood work in a future video where I did an advanced lipid panel because I really wanted to. I've been wanting to cover this for a long time in depth, but I didn't have anybody to partner with that could really be that person. Well, having a heart surgeon to do it is exciting. I'm looking forward to being able to do that because it's like the constant ringing in my ears from people. What about cholesterol? It's like, oh man, how many times am I going to have to say this? And I'm going to have to do it even after I make the video, but at least I'll have something I can say, all right, go back and watch this video. If you're worried about cholesterol, and I've been doing this for 4 years. This is where it is.
Yeah, isn't it wild? Again, the hunters and gatherers, I've never read in history books that they died of cholesterol.
Yeah.
And they would eat meat. They would not skim off the fat. That was the only way to feed their family, to keep them satiated, maybe for another 3 or 4 days until they had to eat again. It's funny that you bring up Dr. Ovadia, because I reached out to him as well. Great guy. I'm going to be interviewing him, I think, in about 2 months as well. All these people, all these doctors, yourself, Carrie, you guys are so influential. That's what we need in life. Out of the box. And what I mean by out of the box, out of the conditioned state mind.
Yeah.
Thinking things, you know what, I'm going to question this. That, these rabbit holes could be tricky, but in every rabbit hole, there are truths. There are things out there that people have to question and say, all right, you know what? This has not been working for me for quite a while. Why? Am I going to be reverting to Ozempic, Wegovy, which I thought about as well, Dante? I'm not going to lie to you. I really thought about going that route.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what's the long-term effects? Well, it's actually used off-label. The insurance can't cover it. So it's probably going to be $1,200 a month. That's pricey.
Yeah.
That is very, very pricey. Then I was thinking about the gastric bypass. So going on that road, it was crazy because they're like, all right, look, before we even get into this surgery, we need you to lose 20 pounds. So wait a minute, hold on a second. So you tell me I got to work at this?
I thought it was a
so you could fix
quick
me.
fix. Yeah.
Yeah. So then when you lose 20 pounds, I think that should be the biggest spark to anyone. I lost this weight on my own. So many things can happen when you're under the knife. And I figured all these people, I do have friends that have gone both routes. And one of the common narratives is, oh, I'm not hungry anymore. I'm not hungry. I'm like, wow, you lost a lot of weight. Yeah, because I don't eat that much. And that's acceptable. Me going on this journey, when I say I'm not hungry, they say, what's wrong with you? I think I'm freezing.
A little bit, yeah.
Sorry. I apologize.
That's not your fault. You don't have control over the internet.
But yeah, I always find that very funny because it's such a strange dichotomy there where the science route is acceptable, but when you make your own decisions health-wise, it's not. And that's where people question things. When you do things on your own, doing things the natural route, but if you don't do it the way how the doctor tells you, then there's a problem.
Well, think about the conditioning that we've had. It's not just the science versus your attitude toward it. It's the fact that we have been told for years and years and years the dangers of red meat, the dangers of fat, that you need to eat parquet instead of butter, and all of these different things. And then the other conditioning of you're not supposed to tell somebody who's fat anything about their weight, anything about their diet. That's fat shaming. You shouldn't do that. If nobody had ever told me that, I probably wouldn't have felt like, you know what, I need to do something about this, but I didn't know what to do about it. Now, see, this is the thing that's different about now than back then. Back then, all the information was telling me to do things that were causing me to have health problems. Right. Whereas now we're finding out there are other alternatives, and that alternative is going back to something that we used to eat hundreds or even thousands of years ago, which was meat, and then people want to say that's a fad diet. And I say, well, no, it's not a fad to go back to what people used to do. As far as if that's the long period of time we've been eating that way, it's only the past 100 years that we've had all these new fads of having tremendous amounts of sugar in our system and having all of these other non-natural ingredients and crossbreeding and stuff. So going back to what was natural to me is not the fad. All the stuff we've been doing is more the fad type of situation. And even though people like to make a big deal of the word diet when they say carnivore diet, I still think the word fits properly. It's just you got to remove the word fad from it because it's not a fad diet. It is the way I eat. When I eat a carnivore diet, it's what my diet is. I eat as a carnivore. I choose to eat as a carnivore because the vegetables are also changed. If I needed to eat something that was less expensive, or if I needed to bring in some more foods like that, I would have them. But I don't have a field where I have growing my own vegetables from heirloom seeds and things like that. We've tried it over and over, and it's not been my cup of tea at all. Now it's my wife's cup of tea. She loves to grow things. So maybe we'll get to that point. But for now, as long as carnivore works, I'm sticking with this. And it's definitely not a fad.
No, I completely concur with you 100%, because it's such a different way of looking at things. Again, yesterday I only had one meal, which is normally what I do, but towards the end of the night, when I come back from work, it's probably on 7 p.m. I'll have like a New York strip or a ribeye. But yesterday around 4 p.m. I had like a Powerball, what Carrie normally calls it, right? Ground meat, scrambled eggs, mix it all together. I know he puts bacon in there, but for some odd reason, I don't know what it is, I can't eat pork anymore. It just doesn't do well. I don't know what it is. And
I really think it's when you do the ruminants, you can taste the other stuff that the other animals eat, and pigs eat everything. So
you're right.
I get it when I taste chicken too.
Chicken, it's been a while. I don't even know when's the last time I ate that. But I ate that, and the night before I did some lamb, and I had so much oil from that. And I poured it onto this Powerball that I had made the night before, and it filled me up so much that around normally at 7, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we were watching Full House. I'm getting all these guys, the little kids watching the old school family oriented shows. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll make a steak now in the air fryer. You put me onto that, man. All credit to you. Wow. You have saved the lifespan of my smoke detector by like a good 9 years, because that smoke detector was going crazy in the oven and the iron skillet. But yesterday, I'm looking at the steak and I'm like, and I asked myself, are you hungry? And crazy, you have your own, like my own conversations.
Yeah, I have them too.
It's wild. And I said, no, I'm not hungry. I'm not. Now, why are you eating? Why are you forcing yourself to eat this? Leave it for tomorrow. Yep. Maybe you could share it with the kids or whatnot. Okay, let's do it. Put it back. I go back to my living room, and my wife is like, who the heck were you talking to? I'm like, hey, it was a personal conversation, okay?
Hey, there's a lot of voices in here, and they don't all agree. There's no doubt about it. Anytime somebody says on the comments, oh, this guy's crazy, I won't mind saying, you're right about that. I never said I wasn't crazy, but I'm still right about this doggone carnivore diet. And I want to go back to something we were talking about for a second when we mentioned that pork and chicken don't taste right, but eggs taste fine, especially if they're naturally raised. The thing with eggs is eggs are almost like a ruminant because of the way the chicken forms the egg. The only problem that you might have with an egg, if you have there's 3 major proteins that are in the white of the egg when it's still raw. And if you cook them sunny side up or you don't fully cook the egg, you're going to get a lot of those proteins in it when you eat it. And they're anti-nutrients, so they can actually inhibit the nutrient density that you want. But eggs themselves, when they're fully cooked, no problem. And some people still have to cut out the whites if they have a real sensitivity to that. Like I prefer having the yolks now because I notice I don't get as much of a response of any kind as I do when I eat whites, which Can be anything from more nasal congestion or something like that to stomach discomfort. But then it also matters what the chickens eat too. If I eat pasture raised eggs, they're fine. Or even backyard eggs like my chickens lay, they're fine because I let them go out and walk around and eat all the natural stuff that they're supposed to eat. But when I eat the vegetarian fed chicken eggs, I get a response to those that's like eating something that is affecting my leaky gut. Anything else that had vegetation in it. So I know we both have a kind of a hard stop in the next few minutes. So I wanted to see if there was anything you wanted to leave the audience with, that if maybe they were where you were 3.5 months ago, what can you do to give them some hope? What would you say to them?
You have willpower. You have it. Don't ever think that the outside environment can control you. You are your own environment. Your decisions can make it legendary to the people that are around you. You affect so many people directly or indirectly through the decisions that you make. People may not agree with this way of eating, but you are your own testimony. You're going through life right now thinking, I can't get off the sugar. What if it's my daughter's birthday and there's the cake and, I'm not partaking here? And what kind of messages is that sending? Your message is important. You're going to showcase to your kids, to your wife, that you're taking nutrition in your life seriously. You're setting the example. You're setting the precedent to not only the people that are around the room, to your legacy, where you're going to be leaving behind. All these entrepreneurs, all these trailblazers, they had to go through routes that no one else wanted to go. But they showed people behind them the way. Be the leader. You have those intangibles in you. You can change your life one decision at a time. Small increments, small little choices, and surround yourself with positive people, positive influences. Start reading more. I was not a big reader. I hated reading. I can't get enough of getting as much information. And Dante's channel, Carrie's channel, listening to testimonies. That's one thing that one of my brothers had said, my brother John, before going on this, because he's also carnivore. He's like, did you listen to that testimony from Dave Mack's show? I was like, no, I didn't. I don't got time. He said, once you start inundating yourself with other people's experiences and seeing how that you're not alone, you're going to fit right in. And you're going to start taking those examples and utilizing it. And that's what I've been doing. I've been saturating myself with a boatload of knowledge and information that I could apply. One thing I started doing, I don't read. I take notes and start applying it over and over. And you start beginning to be liberated and utilizing how God intended you to be. That's me in a nutshell.
Well, that's one of the reasons I came up with Ferrigno Freedom. I couldn't think of what else to call it. I didn't want to be another carnivore guy out there, so I figured freedom. That's what I'm after. I mean, ultimately, freedom in thought, freedom in your life, but not just freedom to do things that damage you, freedom from the things that damage you. So right. I totally agree with what you were saying there. And I'd love to have you and both of your other brothers come back sometime. Maybe once you've been doing this a little longer and you've had some further down the road experience, and you guys can share if they would be interested in coming on. Maybe we can do that in a few months.
I would love that. I know that they're a little camera shy, especially my brother John. Joe, maybe. I would just have to do a lot of convincing.
Are they both Jets fans too?
By default. Yes, by default.
Well, We'll have to do it when football season starts. Maybe when the Jets and Dolphins play, we'll commentate on a game and talk about carnivore at the same time. How's that sound?
As long as we can bet a cow. If we can bet a cow, of course. If the Jets win, I keep the cow. If the Dolphins win,
a cow. That's a hefty bet, but
that's a big one.
Let's wait and see how they do after preseason.
Then I lost.
No,
then I concede.
I'm just teasing. No, I don't know. It's funny. The Jets and the Dolphins have had their back and forth moments. But yeah, I think that would be cool if we could get together with your brothers. I'd love to have a group of guys talking about how their carnivore experience has been, and we can talk about some football too.
I'm in. I'm 100%.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll go ahead and end it there. And I appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing your story, because this is what it's all about. I want to get more people talking about their experiences on carnivore. And it doesn't have to be somebody that already has a YouTube channel. It doesn't have to be somebody who's already told their story a few times. If you haven't told your story and you've had a good experience on a carnivore way of eating, you need to share that information with more than just the people around you. And I'm giving you that opportunity now. You can go to ferrignofreedom.com, click on the tab that says Your Story, and you can submit your information just like Daniel did here. Let me know what your story is. Submit a few pictures so that I'll have them here like you saw on the thumbnail. And then you could be on the show sharing your story with somebody else out there watching who was in the exact position you were, looking for answers. You could help that person, and probably a whole lot more. So why don't you go there now and check out ferrignofreedom.com. And thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you coming and watching the show. Be sure to stick around for any comments that come afterward. And Daniel, if you wouldn't mind, stick around for a minute before you go. I just want to say some parting words with you. It was a pleasure having you guys on today. We'll see you next time.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?
The Carnivore Bar, compared to movie theater snack prices, it's no competition. With a tub of popcorn running you over $14, I'd much rather enjoy the salty, crunchy, meaty goodness of a Carnivore Bar any day. And I don't have to cheat to enjoy my night out. Carnivore Bar. Save 10 to 20% when you use my link in the description of this video.